Hey, True Believers, England Teen here with another episode of the Spirit Awards. This is, well, you guys pick it. You guys help pick the nominations, which are right here. And now it's time to pick the winners. Alrighty, so as you know, COVID kind of messed up comics this year, so we're doing all time in 3 episodes. This is 1960s and 1970s. I'm going to lay out the categories and who was nominated, and you just vote for them. The list is in the description below. Just copy and paste it into the comment section with your pick. Just eliminate all the ones you don't pick. Now, here's the thing. If you see somebody missing, you go, well, it's not a limit. If you got time to comment, you got time to vote. Just vote. Look, we went through it. If you weren't there, you weren't there to help nominate, all right? Just vote. That's all you need to do. All righty. Anyway, with all that aside, let's get this party started. Remember, in the comment section, cut, paste, pick the people you like. Alrighty. First up, we're going to talk about the best artists of 1960s, and here are the nominations. Carmine Infantino was everywhere in DC. He helped on Batman and Robin. I do believe he was one of the creators of Poison Ivy and worked on The Flash as well as tons of other stuff. Next up, we have Gil Kane, and gee, I wonder what character he helped create. Probably tons more than just the Atom, but you know, what you gonna do? He's definitely, he drew a picture of himself holding the Atom. Green Lantern, he did some independent work with Green Hornet, and of course we know, Spider-Man. Okay, let's face it, we would lose our geek cards if we did not include Jack Kirby, but you know what? He deserves to be on the list, man. He helped create the Marvel Universe, the Fantastic Four, S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick Fury. What you gonna do with that, huh? X-Men? They've been around a couple of years. We've also got Thor, and of course, I think Silver Surfer and Galactus are pretty darn cool. And our next nomination is Joe Kubert. Kubert. Anyway, cool. Look, he's famous for Sergeant Rock. He did Detective Comics with Batman. Another one he's famous for is drawing HAWKMAN, and if you're going to do that, might as well go over to Adam and HAWKMAN, shouldn't you? Like everybody on this list, John Romita should just be referred to as legendary artist John Romita. And sometimes it's just for one character. No, it's not Captain America, although I think he did a great job on it. And Daredevil is amazing under his pen, but it's got to be Spider-Man, right? Next up are the nominees for the best writer of the 1960s. Our first nominee is Bob Haney. The man was all over DC in the 1960s, my favorite being the Teen Titans. He really had a knack for that whole, hey, fella, kids kind of thing that they had going on back then. Batman he wrote for, but his crazy writing in the Teen Titans told you he's perfect for Doom Patrol. And I gotta agree. Our next nominee is Gardner Fox. Raise your hand if you created Batgirl. Yep, everybody else, lower your hand. He also wrote Flash of Two Worlds. He was instrumental in getting Justice League started and the Ferris Hal Jordan love affair. Gee, old man comics, who's John Broome? Well, little Jimmy, he helped create the Silver Age of comics with the Barry Allen version of Flash, which means he also helped create Kid Flash, wrote some awesome 1960s Joker stories, and gave us some great science fiction with Adam Strange. Roy Thomas wasn't only just the second editor of Marvel Comics, he gave us some great storylines like Even an Android Could Cry, which created The Vision, started up the Submariner Solos series in the 1960s, helped create Captain Marvel, and even started up Doctor Strange's solo series. Next up, we're going to do the nominees for the best Marvel comic of the 1960s. First up, we have the amazing Spider-Man. Of course, can't ignore the Fantastic Four, but hey, Iron Man, Tales of Suspense. Yep, started there. Thor, and of course, we cannot forget Strange Tales with Doctor Strange and Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Next up, we have the nominees for Best DC Comic of the 1960s. Starting us off is the Green Lantern. Not to mention, we got Adventure Comics starring Legion of Superheroes. Moving on over to the Teen Titans. Of course, you have to include the Justice League, and let's not forget the one that began it all, The Flash. All right, here are the nominations for the Best Independent Comic Book. Read that as anything that's not Marvel or DC. Start the list off with the Thunder Agents. Let's not forget Dr. Solar, Man of the Atom. Now we have to go to Archie. Archie was big in the 60s. Also, you gotta love those classic illustrateds, and of course, Turok, Son of Stone. Here are the nominees for the best story arc of the 1960s. Nowadays, they would probably be called miniseries within a series or even crossover. It's just a story arc. The Coming of Galactus from Fantastic Four, number 48 through 50, has an entity coming to Earth to devour it, and only the Fantastic Four can stop him, maybe with the help of a new character called the Silver Surfer. Crisis on Multiple Earths, starring the Justice League of America and the Justice Society of America, where they have to face down the likes of, well, the crime syndicate and discovering their different versions of themselves in different worlds. Even an Android Can Cry, starring the Avengers and featuring the creation of the Vision and his backstory with Wonder Man and Ultron and Hank Pym and all they have to do with each other. Next nomination is If This Be My Destiny, starring Spider-Man. Most people know this because of its last issue where Spider-Man has to put himself to the test. And is he man enough, with or without his powers? The next storyline nominated is Zatanna's Search, starting in HAWKMAN, and we see her looking for her father throughout all sorts of DC comics in the 1960s. If you like the character, you'll like this story. All right, here's one we're going to get some flack for. Here are the nominees for the best new character of the 1960s. Got to start the list off with the ever-loving Blue-Eyed Thing. Then, of course, the Incredible Hulk. And you want to make a list amazing? Include Spider-Man. I know, I went there. And here's Daredevil, the Man Without Fear. And finally, we have Thor, God of Thunder. And just to make you feel like, hey, these are for the all-time comic book awards, here's the best comic book movie casting of all time. First off, we've got Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. Can't forget Christopher Reeve as Superman. J. Jonah Jameson, played by J.K. Simmons. Blade by Wesley Snipes. And let's end this with Professor X, played by Patrick Stewart. Okay, gang, now we're going to take it over to the nominations for the decade I was born in, the 1970s. All right, our first nomination is the man I equate with horror comics, and that is Bernie Wrightson. The man did his own version of Frankenstein, which finally saw completion recently, helped to create the Swamp Thing, did excellent art as far as the magazine is creepy, and of course, the House of Mystery. And if you want any big crowd drawn, apparently the guy to go to is George Perez. Now, I'm a huge fan of the 80s stuff, but also in the 1970s, he did stuff like The Defenders, The Avengers. I don't think there was anyone he didn't touch. He did What If with Nova. He created Deathlock, did Marvel 2-in-1, and the Inhumans. Alrighty, gang, next up we have John Buscema, another guy who just ended up being everywhere. Here's some original pencils I was able to find on the... we also have him working on Conan the Barbarian. He did part of Kiss. And, of course, the Silver Surfer. Next up, we nominate John Byrne for his work on the X-Men, as well as Iron Fist. You gotta include that. Don't forget about his work on Fantastic Four, and his work on Avengers was amazing. If you haven't had a chance to read Yesterday's Quest, you should. And finally, we nominate Neil Adams. The man was instrumental in reviving Batman. Let's not forget his work on Green Lantern and Green Arrow with Denny O'Neil. He's got the Batman, as I said before. His work on Spirit and Deadman was awesome, as well as helping to bring Muhammad Ali versus Superman. Next up, we have the nominees for Best Writer of the 1970s. First up, we've got to talk about Chris Claremont, the guy who brought us basically everything mutant. Obviously, I'm being hyperbolic, but not by much. He did the X-Men, the Uncanny X-Men, of course. He brought us the New Mutants, which should have a movie sometime in the next decade, Iron Fist, and, of course, The Deadly Hands of Kung Fu. Yes, that is Chuck Norris. The next nomination goes to Denny O'Neil. Not only did he do the road trip story that was nominated in the 60s for Best Storyline, he also brought us Batman's Ra's al Ghul, Tales of the Demon, not to mention the drug issue with Speedy. He brought his own novel to life in comics with the Richard Dragon Kung Fu Fighter. And, of course, what he considers his biggest mistake but is getting love now, Wonder Woman, The Mod Years. Our next nominee is a writer you look at him and go, what didn't he write? Jerry Conway created The Punisher. Wow. Also did some Daredevil with the Black Widow and helped to create Marvel Team Up, one of my favorite titles, and created Power Girl. Alrighty, gang, one of my favorite 80s writers gets nominated in the 70s as well. His name is Marv Wolfman. In the 70s, he brought us such great titles as Tomb of Dracula and Nova. The Man Called Nova, to be exact, helped create the Marvel 2-in-1 series with A Thing, and even brought us some Luke Cage Power Man. Steve Englehart. Man, these days he's an unsung hero, but he wrote some great Captain America the Falcon, did some of the greatest runs of Avengers, and let's not even consider forgetting about his work on Batman. It was freaking incredible. Alrighty, gang, next up we've got the nominations for the best Marvel comic of the 1970s. First up, we've got The Amazing Spider-Man, and also starring Spider-Man, we have Marvel Team Up. Let's not forget The Avengers, some great runs in the 1970s, as well as Iron Man. And then, of course, we have Captain America, The Return of Jack Kirby. Next up, the nominees for the best DC comic of the 1970s. And we gotta bring up, once again, Detective Comics. Let's talk about the Batman that came with it. Some great stories there. Justice League of America. Come on, guys. We got Brave and the Bold kicking all sorts of butt, as well as The World's Finest. Here are the nominees for Best Independent Comic Book of the 1970s. No list like this would be complete without Vampirella, don't you think? We also have CEREBUS, the Aardvark, ElfQuest. Ooh, the first self-publish. And then Star Trek, The Gold Key Years. Let's not forget the horror magazine Creepy. Next up, we have the nominees for the best story arc of the 1970s. Green Arrow takes Green Lantern for a ride across America in Road Trip. Batman faces Ra's al Ghul for the first time in Batman Tales of the Demon. Tony Stark faces his own demons in the bottle. Get it? Demon in the bottle? Okay, moving on. The Avengers, Kree-Skrull War, where two warring worlds uses Earth as their battleground. And the final nomination is The Amazing Spider-Man, The Death of Gwen Stacy. Next up, we've got the nominees for the best new character created in the 1970s. Alrighty, first we're going to mention John Stewart from the Green Lantern Corps, Dark Side, of course. I love this picture, by the way. We've got Luke Cage, Power Man. Don't forget about the Punisher, great crime fighter there, as well as the Swamp Thing. And finally, we're going to talk about the best comic book TV casting of all time, starting with the Incredible Hulk, played by Lou Ferrigno. Let's not forget about Linda Carter playing Wonder Woman. Then we've got the Kingpin, as played by Vincent D'Onofrio, Billy Butcher, played by Carl Urban, and of course, John Bernthal as the Punisher. There you go, guys. Those are the nominations. Once again, the list is also in the description below, so make sure you just copy, paste, and then delete all the ones you don't vote for, leaving the ones you do. Once again, if you've got time to tell me about who we missed, and yeah, there's a ton of great things out there we missed. If you got time to do that, you got time to vote. Just do it. Makes it easier. And it's for a lot of fun. And we're going to be doing the actual show to see who the winners are, more than likely on Thursday. Let's give a couple of days to vote for this one, and I'm going to be coming out with a video for the 1980s and 90s tomorrow, and then 2010s on Wednesday, and those will probably be on Friday and then on Sunday because the auction is Saturday. So anyway, once again, the nominees were picked by you. Now the winners are going to be picked by you. Have fun. And don't forget to click like, share, subscribe, ring the notification bell, of course, so you don't miss anything. Cool things happen around these parts, and go on over to Ko-Fi or to Patreon, drop $1 in the till, and help us keep the lights on and help us keep making videos for you. Thank everybody who's already done that. To everyone, all of the true believers, thank you very, very much for watching.